Hey y'all, it's Melissa, the blogger at Melly Sews and the designer behind Blank Slate Patterns. And today I'm going to show you how to make this super easy poncho out of fleece. It's got 2 seams, you use 2 yards, and you can wear it 2 ways. Right now I've got it on cowl style, so it's got this neck cowl to make sure that the back of your neck is warm. This is important if you have short hair like I do. But if your ears get cold, you can also wear this as a hood. So you just pull the cowl part up. And there you go, it becomes a hood. So let's talk about how to make this. You can check the links in the description down below, or if you can see the notes on the screen to click, I've got the link right up here. And I wrote a blog post that shows you what size fabric you need to cut out. Like I said, you're gonna need 2 yards of fabric, and then I've got measurements for you of how big you need to cut the cowl piece and the poncho piece. And so go ahead and do that, and then we'll start sewing. So let's assume that you have already cut out your rectangle for the poncho and your rectangle for the cowl, and I'm going to show you how to cut out the neckline on the poncho. So first you need to take your fabric, and this is folded in half. This is the 54-inch edge, and I folded this in half. Because my fabric is plaid, it was pretty easy for me to like match up the plaid and make sure that I'm folded correctly in half. But make sure you do that all the way down. And then you're going to take your fabric long ways, the 60-inch edge, and you're going to fold that edge in half as well. And just make sure that's, again, all folded. I'm making sure that my plaid is matched up. And to match plaids, in case you don't know, same with stripes for this type of thing, you just want to make sure that this stripe is laying directly on top of the stripe below it. So that's going to match my plaid for me here. So we're going to be dealing just with this corner here where there's 4 layers of flannel all folded together and no raw edges. Sorry, excuse me, 4 layers of fleece all folded together, no raw edges. I'm going to need a measuring tape. And what you want to do is you're going to want to measure from that corner 4 inches over. And I could mark this with like marking chalk or a marker, but that's actually kind of hard to do on fleece. So I'm going to mark it with a pin. And then I'm going to measure from that same corner, I'm going to measure 2 inches down, which is just below the pattern on my plaid here. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to cut a curved kind of line from there to there. And again, because the fleece is hard to mark, it's going to be difficult for me to mark that, so I'm just going to freehand cut this. So I'm cutting through all 4 layers and just curving my scissors and making sure that by the time I get back to the other mark that I am perpendicular to the edge again. So I've cut out that circle there, and what that is going to do, take those pins out so I don't poke myself, that is going to make the opening for your poncho. Now check at this point, especially if you're making this for yourself, that should fit over your head. If it doesn't fit over your head, you're going to want to trim off just a teeny little bit more and continue until it does fit over your head. The next thing you want to do is you want to actually measure this opening just to make sure that you know exactly what size of cowl that you need to make. So we need to make sure that the neckline measurement, that we know accurately what it is. In order to do that, you're going to grab your measuring tape, and it needs to be your flexible measuring tape. You can't do this part with a ruler. And you're going to measure right along the seam lines. You're going 1/2 inch away from the raw edge because we're going to sew with a 1/2 inch seam here. So when I measure all the way around, I get to 11 1/4. That means I could do the math and double it, and in my head that one's an easy one. I can just do 22 1/2, or the quick trick with no math is fold your measuring tape in half, and then wherever the 0 mark lines up on the other side, it's 22 1/2. That's how long my cowl piece needs to be, plus 1 inch, because we need those 1/2 inch seam allowances. So I'm going to make sure that my cowl rectangle here is 23.5, because I need to add that inch, 23.5 inches long, and then it should be 22 inches tall, because that length is going to be constant. That is enough for it to kind of be like a cowl on your neckline, but it is also enough for it to reach from the neck over your head like a hood. And this is basically what we're going to be sewing on. So you're going to fold that right sides together, your cowl piece, and we need to sew down this side seam here. So make sure that you have matched your plaid stripes if you are using a striped fabric. If not, just make sure you've matched your raw edges and the ends. And then I am going to be stitching just this seam here. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm using, since this fleece I'm using has a little bit of stretch in it, I am using a very narrow medium length zigzag stitch. So I've got my width set to 1.5 and I've got my length set to 3. And again, I'm using 1/2 inch seam allowances. Okay, so I've sewn my cowl in half here, and again, this was the 24-inch edge that I folded it so that it's the 22-inch edge that's folded. And I've sewn down this edge. Because I am working with fleece, you can see this seam here. This isn't going to unravel. Like, you can't unravel it the same way you would a woven fabric. So I don't need to do anything else to that seam now that I've sewn it. I am going to turn my cowl right side out, and I'll show you on the other piece here the right side and the wrong side of this fabric. So the right side out here, you can see how the colors just look a little sharper and the pattern looks a little sharper, and then the wrong side there's more fuzz and the pattern is a little blurred. Now if you happen to like the wrong side of your pattern better than the right side, you can go ahead and have that facing out. But this is the side I'm going to have be the wrong side or the inside. And I want that facing out for my next step. So again, I am going to fold my poncho. And I'm folding it short ways here, but this time I'm folding it wrong side out. And I've got the neck edge now matched up, and the whole poncho is wrong side out. So what I want to do next is take this cowl and I'm going to place it inside the poncho, and then we're going to pin around the neckline. One other marking I do need to make here, and I'm just going to use pins to mark it for myself. So here is my neckline. I want to mark where the shoulders are, which is where I've got it folded. And then I want to mark the center front and the center back. To determine those again, I would just fold it the same way I had it when I cut it, and I'm just going to put a pin there. Now the reason I want to know those spots is I actually want to mark them on the cowl as well. So we're going to say the seam is center back, and then if we fold the cowl so that the seam is on one side, the other fold is center front. And then if we fold that in half, these are the shoulders. And I'm only pinning through one layer right here so that I can mark the other layer as well. And I can still open the cowl this way. Okay, now that I know where I want things to match up, I am going to place this cowl inside of, make sure I only went through one layer there. I'm going to place this cowl inside of the poncho. Okay, and then Going to match up my center front pin with my center front pin. And you'll notice because the poncho is wrong side out and the cowl is right side out, that these are right sides together. I'm going to match the side pin with the shoulder pin here. Pin those together. I'm going to match the center back seam with the center back of the neckline. And then I'm going to match the other shoulder. Okay, when I've got these pins in, let me shake this out a little so you can see better. So you can see what I've got now is this round neckline seam that I'm going to be sewing, and I've got it matched in a few places to make sure that the neckline edges match. So I'm just going to go ahead now and stitch around there using a 1/2 inch seam. It's easier when sewing if you place the needle like this, and that way you don't have to worry about anything bunching up behind it. So that's why I do this inside out like that. I'm still using my very slightly stretchy zigzag stitch, the same one I used to sew the side seam of the cowl. So I've gone ahead and I've stitched around that neck edge, and I've got the cowl stitched to the poncho. Now, you don't need to finish these seams either because, again, we're working with fleece, which will not unravel. However, just to make it a little more comfortable to wear, notice that the inner part of the circle here is smaller in circumference than the stitching line. So because of that, I'm going to go around and I'm going to clip into the curve, just snipping up to the stitching line but not through it, particularly here around the shoulders where the circle curves more because of the way we cut it. What this does is it allows the inner circle of the raw edges of the fabric to stretch apart so that this whole neckline can lay flat. Once that's done, all we need to do is turn this right side out. And you can see I've got a long cowl here, which is going to squish down to make my neck warm. And then I've got the poncho. So to put this on, you're literally just going to stick your head through. And you push the cowl down around your neck and arms out to the side. And then wear it at your sides. Let me step back so you can kind of see. Okay, so here's the at your sides, and then when you're wearing it, it does cover most of your arm. If you'd like to wear it as a hood, all you have to do is pull up the edge of the cowl. And that makes a hood.